Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Minneapolis City Planning Commission meeting of May 19th, 2014. My name is Ted Tucker. I'm president of the Planning Commission. Joining me today are Commissioners Forney, Slack, Brown, and Kronzer. We do have a quorum. At this time, please be sure that your electronic devices are turned to off. So they don't interfere with our testimony and discussions. Our first item of business is to approve actions from the meeting of May 5th, 2014. May I have a motion to approve those actions? Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Those are approved. The next item of business is to approve the agenda based on the agenda that's on these green sheets that you may have picked up on the table outside. We'll go through the items, the 6 items, one by one, and see if there are people here who want to testify about any of these items in opposition to the staff report or perhaps suggesting modifications. So I will start with item number 1. It's an alley vacation at 3000 2nd Street South and 333 1st Street South. That would be continued, laid over until the meeting of June 9th, 2014. Item number 2 is Corky's Towing, 4040 Washington Avenue North. Is there anyone here wishing to speak in opposition to or modify the staff recommendation in the green agenda? Anybody wishing to speak on item number 2? If not, we'll put that on the consent agenda. Item number 3, Jim Hamilton Custom Woodworking at 3959 28th Avenue South, also known as 2800 40th Street. Is there anyone here who wishes to speak in opposition to or modify the staff report for item number 3? If not, that will go on the consent agenda as well. Item number 4, Southeast Homes Incorporated, 2732 Bloomington Avenue South. Is there anyone here who wishes to speak in opposition to or modify the staff recommendation for item number 4? If not, that will go on staff on consent as well. Item number 5 is Bassett's Creek Cell Tower at 256 Upton Avenue South. Is there anyone here wishing to speak in opposition? Okay, we will discuss that one. And item number 6 is Village Market, 912 East 24th Street, 2301 Elliott Avenue South, 2218 through 10th Avenue South, and 1000 East 24th Street. Is there anyone here wishing to speak in opposition to or modify? Okay, we'll put that on discussion as well. So we have one item to be continued. That's item 1 to the meeting of June 9th. And items 5 and 6 will be discussed. And items 2, 3, and 4 will be put on our consent agenda to be approved as recommended by staff in their report. May I have a motion to approve the agenda as amended?
So moved.
Okay, moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Okay, that is our agenda. Let's see. We'll move now to the Committee of the Whole and hear from Vice President Brown.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. At the May 8th Committee of the Whole meeting, we considered projects that are under consideration by the Capital Long Range Improvement Committee. We found that 4 projects were consistent with the comprehensive plan with no further review required. Those are PV 054 South 8th Street paving, PV 103 West 61st Street, PV 104, the ADA ramp replacement program, and TR 025, the sign replacement program. We also found that 3 projects were consistent with the comprehensive plan with additional review required. Those were PV 101, West 29th Street pedestrian connection, TR 024, the pedestrian level lighting program, and WTR 18, the water distribution facility.
So let's see that we need to approve those recommendations, right?
We do.
Okay, so you're making.
I will move approval of those recommendations.
Okay, any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Opposed? Okay, thank you very much. No action item, public hearings, we'll start with that. May I have a motion to continue item number 1 to the meeting of June 9th, 2014? All in favor, say aye. Okay. Now I will open the public hearing for the items on the consent agenda. Again, that's items 2, 3, and 4. Is there anyone wishing to speak in opposition to or modify the staff recommendation for items 2, 3, or 4? If not, I will close the public hearing. May I have a motion to approve staff recommendation for those 3 items? Any discussion? Not all in favor, say aye. Okay, opposed? Those consent items are approved. We'll now move to the public hearing. We'll start with item number 5, with the staff report from Joe Giant. I believe this is your first report here. Come on up and briefly tell us the outlines of your recommendation.
Good afternoon, President, Commissioners. My name is Joe Giant, and as he said, this is my first item on the Planning Commission agenda. So if you guys have any questions in the meantime, feel free to interrupt me. I want to make sure that I give it an accurate representation, so if I miss something or I start talking too quickly, please stop me. So this proposed project is for a 75-foot cell tower, and it's going to be located at 252 Upton Avenue South in the Bryn Mawr neighborhood, right on the western border of Minneapolis. The tower is going to be located to the rear of the Ann Watton Middle School and elementary school. I'm going to move mics. The tower is going to be located on the back side of the school, approximately here. There's an existing surface parking lot that's fenced in. It's approximately 220 feet from the western border of the lot and approximately 646 feet from the nearest residential structure. In order to construct a monopole tower in the city of Minneapolis, the tower needs to be on an institutional site, so a church or a school, and it needs to be on a site that's at least 20,000 square feet in area. This particular parcel is 1.2 million square feet in area, and it is a school, so it does fulfill the requirements for the city of Minneapolis. Now, the applicant is proposing or applying for 2 conditional use permits. The first conditional use permit is to construct the structure itself. And the proposed structure is 75 feet in height, which in residential districts is what the maximum height is. Now, they have to apply for an additional conditional use permit because this parcel is also in the Shoreland Overlay District. The maximum height in the Shoreland Overlay District is 35 feet. So the conditional use permit is to increase height in the Shoreland Overlay District from 35 feet to 75 feet. The reason it's in the Shoreland Overlay District is because, the Shoreland Overlay District is intended to prevent the erosion, deterioration of our protected waters and lakes. There's a wetlands pond on the north side of the property. Now, of course, as you are probably well aware, this is Theodore Wirth Park, which is a very large, hilly, heavily forested park. To the north, to the east, single-family homes, and to the south is a 2-story office building. Now, for the CUP findings, the conditional use findings, I don't want to go over all of them because I don't think that they're all totally relevant, but several of them kind of strike me as important to bring up. Number 1 is in keeping with the general welfare. Is the tower safe? I have gotten a fair amount of public comments and a variety of reasons about this tower. Some of them, the more I thought about it, the more relevant I thought they were. There was a lot of questions about radio emissions from the tower, And I wanted to note that several people did have concerns about them, that if they came today to speak their piece, hopefully that they're well represented as well. And if not, I wanted to make sure that they knew that this was brought up. Typically, that area is left to the FCC to determine what's a safe amount. As a local land use planner, we are trained to consider the interaction of uses with other uses, not typically engineering and scientific things. We have to defer to expert agencies in those fields. The second CUP finding, will the use impede the enjoyment of the property and the surroundings by other people and land uses? Staff has determined that it will not adversely affect the use and enjoyment of the property for other land uses. The park on the western side of the property is very, very hilly and very heavily forested. The tower is nearly invisible from about 30 feet in there. I've taken photos from several vantage points. If the board would like to see those, I'd be willing to put those up there too. Yes, great, excellent. I felt I'd like to see those. Yeah. Okay, this is from a hill on the eastern side, probably 50 feet into the park. The thing that I circled is the top of the IDS tower to give you guys some perspective. As you can see, this was taken a couple of days ago, so it's the leaves are kind of coming in, but I wouldn't say it's full foliage yet, but you can see it's pretty densely forested. The proposed tower is going to take the place of an existing light pole. It's this light pole right here. And I suppose at this point it's very important to mention that the tower itself is a stealth tower and that it's supposed to resemble a light pole. The light poles are about 31 feet tall. The tower is 75 feet tall, so its stealthiness is up for debate. But the important thing about the stealth is to note is that all antennas, all arms, all projections will be contained within the tower itself. So if you were looking at the tower from the outside, it would look like just a dark pole. And as a condition of approval, staff recommends that in the future, no antennas be mounted to the outside of the tower. So what you would potentially approve today would be how the tower would look in perpetuity. And second, the tower would be painted to match the color of the existing light pole. As another condition of approval, and actually it was recommended no matter what when you're approving a telecommunications tower, they have to provide space for additional carriers. So there's space for 2 additional antenna arrays within the tower itself. At this point, I think that's probably a good summary.
Okay, let's see if there are any questions from the commissioners. Yes, Commissioner Kronzer.
Can you, you said the color of the pole would be matching the existing light fixture. Can you tell us what color that is?
It's a dark brown.
Dark brown. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Other questions? Commissioner Gagnon.
Thank you. So your statement was you guys don't consider public health, safety, all that stuff.
We absolutely consider public health and safety.
Okay.
We are very well trained in figuring out how different land uses will interact with each other, but when it comes to determining scientific standards or engineering standards, that's an area that we have to defer to professional agencies that are trained in that field to determine what's a safe amount.
Okay, and the professional agencies said
FCC.
what about?
Well, in order for them to be licensed to do business, they have to have a FCC license. The FCC has stated that the amount of radio frequencies at the base of the tower is hundreds times less than the amount of radio frequencies that are determined to be dangerous to humans. So.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Wittenberg, you wanted to add something?
Mr. President and Commissioner Gagnon, if I could just follow up on that and take that one step further as well, is that the Telecommunications Act actually specifically prohibits local governments from denying cellular communications facilities based on health effects or environmental effects from radio frequency emissions.
So what you're telling me is that the property that we own, Minneapolis Public Schools, we cannot deny having a cell tower on one of our school properties? I don't think that's correct.
No, just to clarify, you can certainly, the school board can certainly choose to lease space to or not lease space to
Right.
this private carrier. But this body here today cannot base this decision on radio frequency emissions.
Okay, because a few school board meetings ago, we put a moratorium on cell towers at on our school properties and said we would not do any more for 2 years. So I'm just confused about this whole process. Thank you.
Commissioner Forney, did you have a question?
Master plan of future towers. It just seems that there's quite a few that are creeping up and.
Absolutely, absolutely. The nearest cell, well, whenever a carrier tries to applies for a new tower, we make them do a couple of things to try to make sure that the proliferation of towers isn't just out of control. We make them show existing towers within the area. So the applicant, actually I have it, showed existing AT&T towers within the surrounding area.
Sorry.
The closest one is 2/3 of a mile away. It's along 394 here. And they've stated that it doesn't fulfill their service requirements. So as far as additional towers in the area, like I said, there's space for additional carriers within the antenna, but as far as a master plan, that would be a question that would be better directed to AT&T. I'm not aware of one.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioners, other questions of staff at this point? Okay, thank you very much. Stand by. At this point, we'll open the public hearing. If the applicant's here, I'd like to hear from them first. Do they have anything to say?
Good evening, Mr. President, respected Planning Commission members. My name is Steve Stalls. I'm an agent for AT&T Wireless and I'm the applicant in this particular project. I'd primarily be happy to answer any questions you folks may have. Thank Mr. Giant for his excellent job in guiding us through this CUP process, and everything he said so far is accurate. One of the things that has come up, we are working closely with the Minneapolis Public School Board. They're in the process of revitalizing and retooling how they do cell sites on schools, and they're in the process of coming up with a protocol and a standard lease format and everything, and we've been working closely with this school board on that. It's my understanding in talking to the school board that it's going to be on the July meeting for final review and approval. So we started this site probably about 10 months ago with the city, with the school, excuse me. So that's how we ended up before you this evening. So, and Councilmember Wittenberg, appreciate your comments and your knowledge of the FCC regulations regarding RF emissions. You're 100% correct. Although the city does review it for safety standards, the FCC ultimately approves or denies FCC licenses to the carriers rather than the local bodies.
Okay.
Well, with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions that the council may have.
Commissioner Forney, do you have a question?
Oh, sorry, no.
No? Commissioner Gagnon.
Thank you. So I am a member of the school board, and it's the first time I've heard about it. So I am not, you're probably talking with the district and not the school board.
Correct. Yes.
Okay. And all I can do is go by what my superintendent tells me at a board meeting, which is we were not going to do any more of these for 2 years. So I'm completely unclear how this all rolled out. So I'm just giving you that feedback from myself, and that was a few months ago when we were going to put one on the Barton school site, and that was rejected because of this same issues. So yes, it's the first
I think to answer your question, there are two separate scenarios. What we're asking for here is the city to approve the zoning for the cell tower. The actual leasing and the protocol involved with the school board is a completely separate situation from this. They're not connected in any way.
Okay, other questions, commissioners? Not, thank you very much. Okay, anyone else wishing to speak at the public hearing, sir? I think you wanted to come up. Please give your name and address for the record. Just come to the podium, speak into the microphones, please.
Hey, my name's Leonard Weiss. I'm at 449 Upton Avenue South. And first of all, a couple of questions were partially clarified. For example, the location of the tower, 256 and 252 Upton Avenue South don't really exist. That would be the middle of Laurel. And so the gentleman here pointed out that it would be behind the school, on the woods side of the school, is that right? Yeah. There you are. Okay, so it's behind the school. Okay. I'm wondering about the effects on, and this may have already been covered, but effects on any Wi-Fi? Is this going to screw up any reception at all? No. No, okay.
Yeah, and that, again, you heard, that's not our business to regulate the radiation from this tower, but.
Okay, I just want to
Okay.
have, I don't want my neighborhood to be diminished by, a public work, although public.
There are cell towers throughout Minneapolis.
Right. Okay. Okay. The last question is, on the top of the tower, will there be a big antenna array?
Staff, did you want to talk about that?
All right. Okay. And have these towers in the past affected neighborhood property values or anything? Bryn Mawr, you're putting it in a great place because Bryn Mawr means big hill in Welsh, so it's a great location, but how do these affect neighborhoods in other places where they've been installed? Property values, et cetera.
Staff has found that the distance from the neighboring, residential structures is, it's almost 650 feet. So the adverse effects on the neighboring properties would be minimal.
Right,
Okay.
right.
Did you have any comments you wanted to make in addition to your questions?
No, the fact that it's behind the school helps a lot.
Okay.
And the fact that
Let's
it's
see if the commissioners have any questions of you. I don't see any. Thank you very much.
My list is finished.
Very good. Is anyone else wishing to speak on this? Come on up, please, and give your name and address.
Hi, my name is Abby Kane, and I live at 253 Upton. And, I just have a bunch of notes here because I use this, I walk by here every day. And to me, it would just be heartbreaking to have this on the school. I think at what expense, at what cost? It is 220 feet from the nearest property line, and yes, that is Theodore Wirth Park, which is a spectacular urban treasure that we have. And that photograph where you showed the IDS must have been on a really foggy day, or it must not be the best camera, because I'm up there every day, and I look over there, I look and see the beautiful skyline of downtown Minneapolis. It's where I go, and I take every single person who comes into town from someplace else. It's where I show the city off. And to have to look down and see a cell tower, it really is sort of heartbreaking. That's number one. Number two, the shed, it's not just the 75-foot tower.
Ma'am, please address us.
Well, I'm looking
No,
at this.
I know, but look
Okay.
to us,
Okay,
please.
Okay. It's not just the 75-foot tower. It's the shed that's 12 feet by 20 feet, and they're going to put it in a place where I walked the other day, and I counted 13 of my little tiny feet across. 13, okay, they're not little tiny, but, and they want us, where I saw, because there has to be a shed to house all the equipment. It's not just the pole, the 75-foot tower. It's this shed, and it's butted right up against the basketball court. I see kids there all the time, and I think you can really find another place for this.
You have other points?
I'm looking.
Okay.
I'm looking. There's a reason why this is on the Shoreland Overlay District, because it is. It's right up against Theodore Wirth Park. And I guess I have one question. The tower that's on 394 that is not big enough to house more equipment, is that just cost prohibitive to fix that, to replace it on the same lot? And, I do have one other question. How much does the school get paid for this?
Not our concern.
Okay. Well, I guess that's it.
Okay, thank you. Let me just see if there are any questions of you. No, there aren't. Thank you very much. Anyone else wishing to speak on this matter? Anyone else on the cell tower? If not, I will close the public hearing. So, commissioners, we have two items, a CUP for the communications tower, CUP for height of the structure in the Shoreland Overlay District. Any motions? Commissioner Brown?
Mr. President, I will move approval of item 5A, the conditional use permit for height in the Shoreland Overlay District with the 7 stated conditions, and approval of item 5B, the conditional use permit for the communication tower,
Okay, that's
with the 1 stated
one
condition.
condition. Okay, so we have motion to approve staff recommendation with the 7 conditions and 1 conditions on A and B. Is there a second? Moved and seconded. Do we have any discussion? Any discussion on this? If not, clerk, please call the roll on item 5, A and B.
Slack? Cronzer? Gagnon? Forney? Brown? Bender? So that's 4-2.
4-2, the staff recommendation is adopted. Thank you very much. We turn now to our second and last item for discussion, item number 6, Village Market at 912 East 24th Street. We'll first hear the staff report from Hillary Dvorak. Just out of curiosity, how many people wanted to testify on this item? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 people? Okay. We don't want to be here all night, so if you can consolidate your comments, speak directly to the applications in front of us, the expansion of non-conforming use. Staff will be going through them one by one, so you can note what you want to say about her analysis of these applications. Just a note to the commissioners and other people in the audience, this is a new one for me. We do have an interpreter sitting over there, so that because not everyone understands English perfectly, and he will be interpreting simultaneously for those who have earphones. So you might hear a little noise off to one side, but that's with our permission, and will help everyone understand the proceedings. So with that, we'll start in on our staff report. Hillary?
Thank you. Good afternoon, Commissioners. This is a land use application for a project known as Village Market. It's located, in the 6th Ward and in the Ventura Village neighborhood. South of 24th Street is actually the 9th Ward, and that is the Midtown Phillips neighborhood. And so this project has been presented to both of those neighborhood organizations, and both council members of both of those wards have been involved in several meetings with constituents and also staff here at the city. There are 5 applications before you for the project. The first is an expansion of a legal non-conforming use to add approximately 8,805 square feet of floor area to the existing shopping center in the I-1 zoning district. A rezoning to add the TP Transitional Parking Overlay District to the property at 2218 10th Avenue South. A conditional use permit to allow that parking lot to be expanded onto that one property. Site plan review for both the expansion of the building and the parking lot. And then a vacation of a part of the public alley that runs through the block. Most of the site is located in the I-1 zoning district. I have a different map and color for you. So where the shopping center is currently, that site is located in the I-1 zoning district. It also has the industrial living overlay on it and also the North Phillips overlay. The North Phillips overlay is not pertinent to our conversation at all tonight. Either is the I-lot, actually. The other properties then, they do own the parking lot across the street, and then the property at 2220 Those properties are located in the R2B zoning district, and they have the transitional parking overlay on them already. The property that they are seeking the rezoning for is the 2218, the one that's highlighted in orange, and you can see that that is adjacent to the property that has previously been rezoned in similar fashion. So the applicant is proposing, in addition to the building, the addition to the building would be located on the corner of 10th Avenue South and 24th Street. It is the area in dark gray that is shaded on there. That is where the addition is proposed to go. It would connect the freestanding grocery and deli to the rest of the shopping center. In 2001, when this bakery, it's a former bakery manufacturing facility, when the building was first converted to what it is today, it was determined at that time to be a farmer's market. In 2001, the city did not define farmer's market in our definitions in the zoning code. However, in 2006, farmers markets were becoming very popular in the city of Minneapolis, and the city did a text amendment to define what a farmers market is. And at that time, the city council defined a farmers market to be an open air market. So moving forward, it was determined that this is no longer a farmer's market. It is in fact a shopping center, which follows in line with what our definitions for those two individual uses are. And again, that was back in 2001 and 2006. Where the building is and where the addition is located, it is in the I-1 zoning district. Shopping centers are not allowed in the I-1 zoning district. When this went into the building, or when the farmers market slash shopping center went into the building in 2001, it was zoned industrial at that time. So the zoning on this property has not changed since this use first went into the building.
Excuse me, could you show where the parking overlay parcel is on this plan? Just trying to get myself oriented.
Sure. This is the area where, let me highlight it.
Things are rotated or something like that.
Sorry. This is the property that is proposed for the rezoning. It is where the alley will be rerouted, which I'll get to further in my presentation.
And the property that was previously rezoned for parking is
right next to it.
right.
So
And where's north on this map?
north.
That away. Okay.
Looks orange up there. Okay.
Thank you. That helps.
All right. So since shopping centers are not a permitted use in the I-1 zoning district, they need the expansion, the not conforming use, and then the rezoning to add the TB, the CUP, and then the site plan review. The applicant is proposing to vacate the southern portion of the alley. Ted, I'm sorry, I'm changing all of the orientations for you tonight. So north is up on this. The section of alley highlighted in red is the area that the applicant is proposing to vacate. And the area that is shown in green is where the new alley would be constructed. So currently the alley doglegs out to Elliott. The proposal is to dogleg it out to 10th and to completely separate the shopping center and their parking lots from the public alley.
Does that eliminate alley service to any other property?
You are jumping ahead of my presentation.
sorry.
Yes, and I will get to that in just a few minutes. They have worked all of that out, though. So just for some past history on the site, this is my first time working with this property owner and this specific site. But back in 2001, the Planning Commission did approve a conditional use permit, parking variance, and site plan review applications to allow for a mixed-use building, including an indoor farmer's market, a grocery store, food and beverage uses, offices, warehousing, and light manufacturing spaces. And then in 2004, the same property owner, who is today the same owner, applied for a rezoning application to add the TP overlay district to the parcels located at 1000 and 1010 East 24th Street and 2321 10th Avenue South. An amendment to the previously approved CUP to convert the warehousing and light manufacturing space within the building into additional commercial space, a number of variances, including a new parking variance and site plan review. So in 2004, the entire building was converted from this mixture of uses to a shopping center. In May of 2004, the City Council then approved the rezoning application to add the transitional parking overlay to the property at 2220 10th Avenue South, which is the property adjacent to the one that is seeking the rezoning today. Several public comments have been received. There were some that were forwarded to you via Dropbox when the report was first published. There are also several more printed comments in your packets. In the packets that you received over the weekend, there was a letter from the Midtown Phillips. In the packet that you have today, there is a letter from the Ventura Village neighborhood. The Ventura Village neighborhood, which is where this site is located, supports the application. The Midtown Phillips neighborhood does not. So I'm going to go through the applications in some detail tonight, and then when we get to site plan review, I'll walk you through our conditions, as we do have several conditions of approval for you. So for an expansion of a non-conforming use, the first question is whether a rezoning application is appropriate or not, and we do not think that it would be appropriate to rezone this site. To make this a conforming use, you would have to rezone this to a commercial zoning district. The Minneapolis Plan for Sustainable Growth has designated the site as transitional industrial. The area surrounding the site is primarily urban neighborhood or public and institutional. Transitional industrial areas are areas located outside of our industrial employment districts where we want to attract jobs and industrial business growth. These areas may eventually evolve to other uses compatible with surrounding development. The closest land use feature to this site is Chicago Avenue, which is a designated community corridor, which are primarily residential with intermittent commercial uses clustered at intersections or nodes. So for those reasons, we don't feel that rezoning the site would be appropriate for the area. The site is surrounded by residential properties and small-scale commercial uses. There are commercial uses located just south of the site on 24th. In these locations, they are 2 stories. The proposed expansion is a 2-story addition that would be compatible in height and scale to those existing uses. The first floor of the building will be additional retail space, and the second floor will be additional office space. We don't feel that the proposed uses would result in significant increases of adverse offsite impacts, such as noise, dust, or odors. This addition is going to replace a surface parking lot. It's when it was approved, it was a 6-space surface parking lot. Here you can see this area where those cars are parked. Legally, what is approved for that site are 6 parking spaces. People double load, but they don't have appropriate widths for drive aisles and whatnot. So what's approved is 6 spaces. So the addition is going to replace that parking lot. And that parking lot has curb cuts on both 24th Street and 10th Avenue. And what happens is that people will circulate through the parking lot using that intersection, and until they can find a spot, they will continue to circulate through that small parking lot, causing traffic problems and congestion problems on the surrounding streets. Now, while the addition is going to eliminate 6 parking spaces, there will be a net increase of 16 spaces on the site once all of the other improvements are made to the site. And those improvements include completely separating the alley from the site, making the drive aisle through the parking lot a one-way directional, fencing off and landscaping off the site, and then putting a pay box gate arms in to control access into and out of the lot. So if the lot is full, you cannot get in, and you will be forced to continue moving. And so all of those changes we feel will help increase traffic circulation around this site. A travel demand management plan was done for this site back in 2003. Public Works and the applicant and I have met with their traffic consultant, and they are in the process of making a whole new travel demand management plan. So much has changed since 2003 in the neighborhood. And we didn't feel that it was just valid to update that plan, so we are requesting that they do a new TDMP, which both Public Works and CPUD will need to approve before we issue building permits, and that is one condition of approval that we have put on the expansion application. So that is the expansion non-conforming use, and we are recommending approval with those conditions. The second application then is that rezoning. Where the rezoning property is, it's located in an urban neighborhood, and we do find it compatible to add the transitional parking overlay to the site. The underlying R2B zoning, the residential two-family zoning, will remain underneath that. The rezoning will allow the applicant to expand, which will help alleviate some of the parking concerns in the neighborhood. That seems to be one of the major issues that comes up when talking about this project. And so in order to allow the applicant to expand the parking, we do need to add the transitional parking to this site. And so we are recommending that you do that tonight. And again, in 2004, the adjacent property was placed under the TPE transitional parking to allow the expansion of the parking lot. The affiliated application then is the conditional use permit for that parking lot. Obviously, we're recommending approval of that as well, since we are recommending approval of the rezoning. The applicant is proposing to screen the parking lot. There is a single-family house, or a residential property, I should say, on the north side of the property. On both sides of the alley, the applicant is proposing to install fencing and then landscaping to help buffer the residential property to the north from the parking lot. And again, the public alley will also run through there, which will also be a buffer to that house. Currently, the parking lot is very, very close to that existing house. And in fact, the fence that had been installed on that side is actually tilting into the adjacent house. And so separating these uses should be beneficial to that property owner and those remaining homes on the north side of the site. So for the site plan review application, we have several conditions, and I am going to go through those for you. The first condition is that the applicant install a planter area around the base of this sign on this corner of the property. This has to do with what is happening between the building and the front property lines. And right now it's just asphalt around the base of the sign. And so we are recommending that they build a raised up planter for additional green space on that site and remove the asphalt during the construction. And that planter would go from property line to property line and then to the building. So at the base of that sign, you would have green space. The next condition has to deal with the material of the addition, and then also going into a somewhat uncharted territory, but the colors of the building. On the existing building, there are several materials. There is lap siding, there is brick, there is painted concrete block, and there is also stucco. Something that I discovered after I had written my staff report is the east wall of the building here, all of this has actually, that was the concrete block wall, and the north side of the building is also concrete block. But what has happened, two different years worth of photos have been submitted. That east wall of the building has actually been covered in stucco and has been painted this terracotta-like color. And here are photos that show, this is the building on 24th where you have the whitish gray with the blue design painted on it with the blue awnings. And then this is the freestanding bakery and deli building. And then this is that east wall of the building where the stucco has been added and then painted. It is the applicant's intention to carry that stucco around to the north side of the building where the concrete block wall is, but stopped doing that to allow this process to continue. They didn't need a permit from us to, or they didn't need permission from the Planning Commission, I should say, to do the stucco. They could have continued that on, but they had stopped. But the proposal for the addition is to have a brick base with a stucco top. This is that addition here in this corner. So the brick at the base with a stucco top. What we're recommending is, and this was prior to me realizing that this wall had stucco applied to it, was that this entire addition be brick. And I'm still recommending that. I'm not changing my recommendation, but I did want you to know that the applicant has applied stucco to this portion of the building. You could also probably tell from the photos, and if you did site visits, there are many colors. Each wall is a different color. And so it's not a requirement, but we are asking them to work with staff to try to bring some cohesiveness to all four sides of this building through color, because that may make it seem like one project, one building. And so that is a condition of approval in the actions today. The next condition of approval deals with an entrance. There is an existing entrance located on the north side of the building. Currently, that public alley runs directly up to the building wall. And so when you walk out, you maybe have a little stoop, but then you are immediately in the alley. By realigning the alley, there is going to be this space where you could stand before you go into the building. This allows a walkway to be created, and so people don't have to walk through the parking lot. So we're recommending that they construct a walkway from the public sidewalk up into this area that was going to be concrete, at least 4 feet in width. Some of the other conditions then is that as part of the alley realignment, there is a gate here that faces the parking lot, that provides access from the alley to the parking lot, but that gate is not to be opened. And so the purpose of this gate is to allow the property owner who has easements with this property, and Commissioner Tucker, this is to your question, this property will not have access directly to the public alley. However, the two property owners have entered into and signed access agreements where the applicant tonight is going to be snow plowing their proposed parking area, and this property owner is able to put their trash into their trash receptacles and then have access across their half of the alley to get out. So those access easements have been worked up between the two properties. And I guess just for clarity, the applicant has been working with this property owner to try to purchase this lot, but that has not been successful to this point. So the condition, getting back to site plan review, is that this gate remain locked except for when snow plowing activities need to be taking place on site. There are several conditions that deal with the landscape plan. This is not, a civil engineer was hired to work on the site after the architectural plans had come in, and so this is not a detailed landscape plan, but I have several conditions that they need to meet our recommendations or our requirements of the zoning code. So they need to meet our tree and shrub requirement on site. I'm requesting that they meet the screening requirements along the public streets with shrubs and along our public alley, the public alley in this case between the fence and the shrub. There are some fence issues that need to be corrected. There is a 6-foot tall wooden fence here that has fallen over. We're requesting that they fix that fence per the fence plan that was included in your packets. And then just in general meet the screening requirements for all of the landscaping on site. For the bicycle requirements, they do need to provide 2 bicycle parking spaces inside for the office expansion, and so we are requesting that final plans show an indoor bicycle parking area for employees of the shopping center. They are proposing to have 27 bike parking spaces outside, split into two areas, here near the new entrance to the building, and then back here by this northern entrance to the building and somewhat in the middle of the parking lot. As for signage, the applicant is proposing 3 new wall signs, and they do have a freestanding sign, as I showed you on this picture, right here on the corner, and it would actually sit in this location. I had talked to the applicant about removing the sign, but they do want to keep that freestanding sign. So the sign then that's sitting right here on the elevation would be blocked by that, and the sign is actually too tall, and so we are recommending that they not have this sign. They could come back in the future if they wanted a variance, but it seems repetitive to have a sign in front of a sign that says the same thing, and one could consider that to be sign clutter if they did apply for a variance. So we're just recommending that they not have that. It's the sign height allowance is 28 feet, and it was over that height. We also have conditions about, enclosing the recycling and trash containers. Mechanical equipment needs to be screened, all of those per the standards of the zoning code. I've requested that a lighting plan be submitted to look at foot candle cutoffs from all surrounding residential property lines. There are specific development standards for a shopping center. One of those standards talks about trash cleanup, which is a standard condition for many of our uses in the zoning code, that trash within 100 feet of all property lines be picked up on a regular basis. We are recommending that they have permanent trash receptacles placed near every entrance into the building to try to cut down on the amount of litter that is possibly thrown from this site. And then there are 2 areas of alternative compliance that are needed. One is the 20% landscaping, and then one is the parking space distance to trees. If the applicant were to comply with both of these requirements, several of the parking spaces would need to be removed, and since parking is a premium in this location, we are requesting that you grant alternative compliance for both of those conditions in order to maximize the amount of parking spaces on site. So that is the site plan review, and I believe I've covered all of those conditions. The last application then is that alley vacation. And so it would be, as I had shown, it would be this portion of the alley would be vacated. This is that one house then that would not have, actually they would, through our vacation process, the alley is typically split down the middle, so that property owner would gain that 7 to 10 feet of public alley, and then the remaining half would go to the applicant. But again, they have easements with this property owner for trash, snow plowing, and access purposes, and so this property owner will have access to what is the proposed new public alley coming out to 10th. So those are the applications, and those are the conditions. I think I've covered all of our conditions. I tried to condense some of the site plan standards for landscaping, but I think I have captured the essence of all of them. Oh, the one that I did not cover, deals with the width of this landscaped area. This landscaped area was, I believe, only 3.5 feet. It needed to be 7.5 feet. The drive aisle is 27 feet 10 inches, and it only needs to be 20 feet per our code. So we are trying to balance access through here for trucks, and there is a pinch point in this location, so I didn't want to just reduce this down to 22 feet. So the condition says that at least 3.5 feet has to come out of the drive aisle in order to get that full 7 feet of landscape here. And then we'll continue to work through with Public Works and the TDMP to see if we can, take another foot or so out of that to add to the green space on site. But that is why that condition is worded that way. So that was, I think, the only other condition that I didn't explain that was somewhat unique for us. So But I'm here if there's questions.
Will adding that 3.5 feet to the strip there change the alternative compliance requirement? Will they still?
No, I ran the calculations, and we're still short by quite a bit. I didn't bring my full set of plans
Okay.
here, but we were still short. So I couldn't get it to 20%, and we would have had to probably strike all of those parking spaces in order to get that.
Okay. Is there room in the available landscaping space for all these shrubs and trees, 15 trees, 76 shrubs?
Yes.
Okay. I'm just curious why these plans came forward with so much missing material, the screenings and all that. Normally, those are just there and they comply or don't, and may need a nudge here or there, but this seems to be lacking a lot of detail.
Honestly, in the landscaping plan, I did email the architect and say to ask for the landscape schedule, because this does look like a landscape plan, and that's when the architect told me that the civil has within the civil engineer's contract, they will be doing the planting plan.
Okay. When's the TDMP going to be done? I notice we've continued this a time or two. One might expect that the plan would have been completed by now.
This has been a very complicated process, to be honest with you. I shouldn't say complicated, it's just a lot of issues have come up. The application has been complete for some time. And so we do need action from you tonight on the project to stay within our 120-day time frame, anticipating an appeal, and actually the rezoning and vacation have to go through the full city council process. But this had been scheduled for April 23rd. It was continued 1 month to allow conversations within the council offices to occur, and conversations with the neighborhood organization to happen. So that is why we're here. But the TDMP, though, will need to be completed and approved by both directors of both CPAD and Public Works prior to us issuing building permits.
And I had one other question. Does the net increase in parking through this rezoning and moving the alley, is that more than is needed for the 8,800 and whatever square feet of the expansion?
Yes, it would be.
How much would that expansion by itself call for?
I would need to run some parking. Actually, the expansion would only maybe need about 4 spaces.
So this is providing more spaces that help with the congestion created by the other space. one
Correct.
might look. Okay.
And as it was explained in the staff report, the parking requirements from 2001 to 2014 have changed. And through the reviews in 2001 and then again in 2004 for this project, the city granted variances. So the last variance that was approved was from 244 spaces down to 102 spaces. And what's required today is 160, and what they're proposing is 118. So we require less than what was required in 2004, and we have more than what was provided in 2004. So we still fall within the range of that variance.
Okay.
But what is the additional parking spaces would cover the addition if we looked at it just on that basis.
That was my question. Okay. Commissioners, other questions of staff at this point? Commissioner Bender?
Thank you. I think I know the answer to this question, but we've gotten a lot of comments about the number of vendors within the building. And so could you just talk about how our zoning code regulates this use? Maybe we need a new zoning classification in the future, but at this time we were just regulating this as a shopping center, and that doesn't have any, doesn't speak to the intensity of the use inside the building. Is that right? Or could you talk about that?
Correct. So the shopping, it is a shopping center, and we don't regulate, we don't have a maximum number of individual tenant spaces that can be within a shopping center. That would probably stifle economic development. One could argue if we did cap that for a business owner or a shopping center owner. And so we don't do that. However, for parking purposes, in this case, we do look at the individual uses that are within the shopping center. And there are 4 major uses: the office use, food and beverage use, retail, general retail, sales and service uses, and then the place of assembly. There is a prayer room or a mosque within the building. And so we did run parking calculations for all 4, which is the parking requirement for a shopping center is per the CUP. And so this is how we've done parking calculations for shopping centers historically in the city as we look at the individual uses and break them down into food and beverage, retail, what have you, and then run the calculations from there.
Commissioner Kronzer?
Thank you, President Tucker. I do have a few questions, so bear with me here. Is there any outdoor gathering space proposed on this project for the expansion?
No, there is no outdoor gathering space proposed.
Can you talk about the critical parking area in the area and also the proposed 24th Street Bike Boulevard plans?
I can show you a critical parking map that I have. There is a, at the end of last year, Councilmember Lilligren signed a resolution for a federally funded bike project to be implemented on 24th Street from Chicago to somewhere in the east. And I'm sorry, I'm forgetting the endpoint. I actually think I would have that. I might have those plans. But that bicycle project was supposed to occur last year, but because of weather, the paint never got on the ground. The signs were installed, but the paint never went down. And so there is a bike boulevard going in on 24th Street. Between Chicago and 12th, no on-street parking will be removed. There will be on-street parking removed from 12th towards the east. But in this location, let me get you a different map, or a larger map, I should say. I don't know how much larger this is going to be, but it gives you a little more context. So Chicago is here. So from Chicago to 12th, no on-street parking on 24th will be removed. It's because the street is wider in this segment. But from 12th towards the east, and that bike project goes down to I apologize. Down to Cedar. There will be, I don't know all the specifics of it, but there will be some on-street parking removed in that segment. But again, in this segment, no on-street parking is going to be removed. As far as the critical parking map, this is it's area number 3. So this is that map. And where you see the dark lines, that is where there is critical parking. So different types of restrictions: 1 hour parking between 8 and 6, 2 hour parking, 1 hour parking between 8 and 8, no parking. So I don't know the specifics of each street segment and which restriction applies, but this is where the critical parking is. And something that the TDMP is going to look at, so what wasn't in effect in 2003 when the TDMP was approved was critical parking, or at least it hadn't come up this far. And so something that one of the major reasons why we said we just need a whole new TDMP for this is to take into account the critical parking that went into effect. In talking with Public Works, a lot of the critical parking is a result of the hospitals, not necessarily this shopping center. So to be clear, on Chicago, we have all of the hospitals in this location, and as a result of those intensive uses, that is why the critical parking is here. Or one of the reasons.
Is there a
why.
thought that the TDMP would come back with an expansion of the critical parking area?
Well, it is property owner led for critical parking. You need, I believe, 70% of your property owners within the area that's seeking it to approve that. So it could look at making some recommendations. However, if the TDMP came back and said, you shouldn't have no parking here, you should have 1 hour parking or 2 hour parking, those homeowners would have to agree to it. It's not just something that the city can come in and change without those consents.
Okay. The parking currently on site is not paid parking. The proposal is for the entire parking lot to be paid parking or reimbursed parking. Can you go through that in a little more detail?
As I understand it, it will be paid parking, and for some of the larger tenants, there would be a 2-hour validation for those patrons, say for the larger restaurants or the larger commercial spaces in the building. I would like the applicant to speak to that in more detail, but that is a question that we've asked the traffic consultant to give us their opinion on, is how they think the parking should be rated. Obviously, we wouldn't want them to charge a high amount per hour and then have no one parking it. We want it to be efficient. This may be green apples to red apples comparison, but
There's a difference between red apples and red.
there is. But at the
like red
Carmel
apples.
Plaza Shopping Center, a lot of these similar changes have taken place, and Public Works has been working closely with the owners.
Can you give an example of that?
That parking lot put in pay boxes. They put in a one-way drive from Pillsbury to Pleasant. I'm not sure which direction in and out. Similar changes to what's being proposed here, and that has improved on-street parking congestion or on-street traffic issues. Is this, is it 100% fix? I don't know, but all I know is that it is a lot better over there from what Public Works has said. And so, modeling this somewhat after some of those issues, because the issues have been the same. They've made these improvements and these changes to their parking lot, and things have gotten better. They're hoping that these improvements will have the same result.
Right. Okay, last question, I think. Can we go back to the parking required?
Yep.
What I really don't understand is, with an expansion of non-conforming use, why are the parking requirements today not a requirement and then potentially varied based on the parking requirements required based on for the whole development? Because it's an expansion of a non-conforming use. And I'm no zoning expert, obviously, but that's when we're having a hard time understanding why we're not requiring 178 stalls and then backing off of that for the proposed variance, right?
If I'm understanding your question correctly, the variance that was granted, and variances run with the property, was for a greater amount.
Well, it was varied down to 102, if I'm understanding correctly,
Correct.
in 2004, when it became a shopping center.
Correct. That's when the second variance, the last recorded variance for parking was approved. So down from 240 spaces to 102 spaces, correct. And so the requirement today is less than the total that was required then. So 244 was the requirement in 2004, 160 is the requirement now. Because our parking chapter has significantly changed too.
Right. So the expansion of nonconforming has no bearing because of the way the parking's already been varianced. That the change of nonconforming the expansion doesn't, there's just nothing we can do about that.
Correct. However, if we did look at it that way, the 16 additional parking spaces, even with the net loss of the 6, still covers the addition.
Ooh, okay, I guess that's the number I'm interested in.
Because what the differential would be the 16 parking spaces that they're adding, and that would cover the addition.
So the deficit.
Well, so the chart here on page 12 of the staff report, total minimum requirement, 160. Is that not? I guess that number is confusing me. Why that number is higher than 102 plus 16, 118. So maybe that variance math is hidden in all of this.
In the bullet point, no, there's nothing hidden in the math. In the bullet point, and I don't think the bullets printed, at least they didn't when I printed my report today. Under off-street parking and loading on page 12 in the written section above, that's where we explain the variance process that's happened on parking.
Yeah, I read it. Okay.
Everything is explained sufficiently. Other questions of staff at this point? Okay, I don't see any, but I imagine more will come up. At this point, we'll open the public hearing. We've already had the staff report and ask questions of staff. Next, we'll hear from the applicant, and commissioners We'll ask questions of the applicant, and I hope the applicant will be brief since we've had a pretty good explanation of the project, although commissioners may still have questions. After that, I'll invite public comment. If you wish to speak, we need you to do two things. Please be sure to sign up on the sheet outside in the hall. If you haven't done this already, you can do so afterwards, so we know who you are. Then when you come up to testify, you must state your name and address for the record. Please keep your comments to the specific applications that are before us today, and those are listed on the agenda. They have to do with adding to the parking through a rezoning in a overlay district, and expanding a non-conforming use, and site plan review in the alley. So those are, we want to hear about your comments on that, whether it's good or bad for the city, the neighborhood, whatever. Let's see, how many people want to speak at this point? I see other people have shown up. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm sorry? Oh, okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 8. Okay, we had 6 earlier, so now we'll probably be splitting into people who want to speak in favor and people who want to speak against, and give 20 minutes to each. Let's see. Then if you have any materials to hand out, please give them to our committee clerk so they can be distributed to the commission and entered into the record. And after the public comments are complete, I will close the hearing. Commissioners will deliberate and act on the applications before us. So, those who are going to want to speak against these applications need to figure out how you're going to do this in 20 minutes. Share your time. Stay brief. Similarly, those who are wanting to speak in favor of it, 20 minutes. And that will include from the applicant. That's why I suggest you stay brief. I don't count question time from commissioners against your 20 minutes. So I will start with the applicant and give us briefly information that you think we need. I'd be curious if you're okay with all 18 of the conditions, which is an unusually large amount. I wish that had been included in the submission, but evidently not. And stand for questions. Okay.
Chairman Tucker, my name is Scott Nelson. I'm with DJR Architecture, and we've been working with Omar and with Hillary for quite some time, and the project's gone through a number of different iterations, and I'd like to publicly thank Hillary for her patience in helping us through this process. And I will be brief, and I will say that in speaking with Omar, we're fine with all of the conditions that were recommended, with the possible exception of the one about doing the entire addition on the corner in brick. We'd like to work with staff in recognizing that there's already a significant part of the building with stucco, and be able to revise that corner addition, which really addresses both sides, as some combination of brick and stucco. We're more than willing to look at painting and doing some other treatments on all 4 sides of the building. As it started its life as a bakery and has been remodeled over the course of better than a decade as a shopping center. It's seen lots of different materials and iterations, and they've been starting, in fact, after we made the initial photographs, they'd done some exterior remodeling in hopes of continuing that, and we'd be very happy to make that part of the whole of the completion of this project with the parking. The parking increase in flow and increase with landscaping, and we have hired a landscape architect. That's why we aren't the ones doing the landscape plan for this. So, but I just wanted you guys to know we're fine with all of those conditions. And Omar would be willing to talk about the parking, how the pay parking is going to be handled.
Yes, good evening. My name is Omar Sabri. Address is 2436 Chicago Avenue, Minneapolis. I'm a managing member in 24th Mall, and tonight I'll be speaking about the pay parking. As Scott and Hillary has touched, pay parking will be implemented in the site. We did observe Carmel doing the pay parking, and we've seen the benefit behind it. The cost, however, would be pretty minimum. It just encouraged people to move on. It would be about $1 an hour. For restaurants and coffee shops, it would have the first 30 minutes for free, and after that, it would be charged. So that hopefully would help to move people around and create more parking for everyone.
Okay, let's see if there are any questions. I don't see any. Thank you very much. Okay, others who wish to speak in support of these applications for the expansion of non-conforming use? Okay, come on up and give your name and address, and please be brief.
Good evening. My name is Gath Ali. I live at 1915 Clinton Avenue. And I support this project. Also, I'm business owner from the Village Market. And actually, the city benefit and also the community actually benefit for the extension for this project. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, others wishing to speak in support? Your name and address for the record, please.
Hi, my name is Abdulkarim Isi. I'm speaker of Oscar Puri Jewelry. We hired this year, last couple of years, 3 people, and we contribute to business. We would like to, we are favor of it, expandment, which is more, so we can hire more, and we believe we contribute tax-wise and business expandment. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any questions? None? Someone else wishing to speak in support of this project? Come on up and... Anyone? Oh, okay. If you want to explain that we're looking for people from the public who want to speak in favor of this expansion.
Yeah, my name is Farhan Farah. My address is 1630 South 6th Street, and I have a small business in this business. I believe the improvement of the new constructions will help us traffic jam and also bring more business to our mall, so I support that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, come on up. Your name and addresses.
This is my name, Mohammed Chawala. 24 12 Ogla Badegare.
Thank you. Okay. Yeah, could you come up, and so we can get you on the microphone and your recorded translation.
كلكم وين السلامي مسؤولين تينا يدتك كسوق بقرية شغلن.
I'm greeting all of you and the audience too.
oday Soomaaliyeed oday baan ahay American oo Soomaaliya.
I'm a Somali man.
American.
Somali American.
waan ku taageerayaa yani.
I do support
mallka 24.
The 24 mall. The mall of the 24 ka.
waanu aad baan ugu baahanay waa meeshaan ku cibaadaysano.
We need, that's where we go and pray.
waayo meel kale aan hadda ku cibaadaysan karnaa ma jirto.
It's the only place where we have to go and pray.
waxaan idinka codsanaynaa madaxda inay nagu taageertaan.
And I hope and I wish that you also will agree with us.
mar haddii Ilaahay lagu caabudayo.
Since it's a place of praying to God.
intaasaan anigu soo koobay. waa mahadsantihiin.
That's all, and thank you.
Thank you. Any questions? None? Okay. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor, please come on up. One.
He's supporting too.
Okay. Your name and address, please.
Mohammed Anshur Farah.
Mohammed Mahmoud Anshur Farah.
adreskaygu waa 1920 Ford Avenue,
4th Avenue,
xaafadda lixaad.
Ward 6.
And business baan ku leeyahay 24ka.
Business owner at the mall 24ka.
Waan taageersanahay maalka
I do
24ka iyo
support
baarkinadiisa.
mallka 24ka and his parkings.
Importanti weyn buuna noo yahay.
It's very important to us.
Marka waad mahadsantihiin.
Thank you.
Thank you. Others?
magacaaga iyo
My name is Ahmed Burale.
My name is Mohammed Burale.
I'm Imam Masjid and Mall 24.
He is actually the imam of the mosque and the 24 mall,
My address is 920 East 19th Street.
920 East 19th Street.
Marka waxaan idiin sheegayaa meeshu ma aha business keliya.
And just want to let you know it's not only for business.
Dhibaato fara badan baa wadankii Soomaaliya loo jira ka soo dhacday.
Since there's been a lot of problems in Somalia. There's been a lot of issues in Somalia.
Dadka meesha isugu yimaada waa dad community-ga dadkii soo rafaaday oo odayaasha leh oo nin walba ayaa meesha isugu yimaadeen.
And this is a place where everybody meets, all those with issues and problems, and they all come and meet.
Waxyaalaha ciidiga keenaya waxaa ka mid ah dadka ayaa jecel inay meeshii joogaan oo problemka haysta ay ku wada hadlaan oo ay joogaan bay jecel yihiin waqti badan.
And that's one of the reasons why we actually want this parking spot, because there's a lot of people that actually come to this place, meet and mingle and talk and sit.
Umaleynayna inay meesha businesska kaliya unta dad ku iman hayo problemka Soomaaliya ka jira dadkii dhibaato
It's
haysta
not just the business point of it, it's a very community oriented place where we actually everybody comes and meets.
idinkoo saa u arkaya waxaan codsanaynaa businesskina waa
With
ka
that,
mid imaatinka iyo community
business
waa ka
and
mid
community and everything
in meeshii aan maartay loo aad siisaan preferences
to actually support us and accept.
aan mahadsantihiin.
And thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
Yes.
Sir, I wondered, thank you. Assalamu alaikum. Thanks for coming today. I wondered, as a leader in your community, if there was a way to encourage some of the people that live closer to the mosque to walk instead of driving, since the parking and driving is such a problem for the traffic nearby. I don't know how many people coming live nearby.
Waxaad u sheegtaa yesterday waxaad u sheegtaa hadda haddiina soo lugayno guryaha dheer ayna ka iman meesha ma waqaadeen.
Yes, they actually do walk and they actually come walking. Otherwise, they wouldn't actually fit all their cars.
Amse guri baa hareeraha ka degan oo dadku ka
All the
yimaadeen.
houses that actually surrounded that
Dadka
place.
inta baabuurta ku timaada waxaa ka badan inta lugta ku timaada.
And they all actually come and walk.
Any other questions? Okay. Others wishing to speak in favor of this expansion and the parking, come on up.
Hi, my name is Shavisi Dogale Ali, and I live at 1045 Ulrich Avenue, Minneapolis, Minnesota. I do support this project because it's more beneficial for the Somali community. And as you can see, the new building they added right now is outside of the mall where people gather, so they can put trash outside the mall, so you go to the street. And if we get the new building, that trash is going to be reduced and nobody meet outside the mall. People, everything they throw away is going to be inside the mall, so that the owner can clean it. But the city is going to do that, and I think we get more customer to more people come and more stories, more taxis for the city and the state. And the new parking lot also, expanded of the new parking lot also get more beneficial because right now people back more than 2 hours, 3 hours. When the new parking in Florence have been, people come back 2 hours and bait and out, and somebody else come and bait and out. So I think we will get benefit for the new parking and the new building they're going to add them all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Questions? Anyone else wishing to speak in support? Come on up. Others who want to speak, please, be ready to come up to the podium if you would.
Yes, my name is Abdi Qatar. I have a small business in the market village.
and I live 2625 18 Avenue South. And sometimes, the parking lot is full. I park my car in 10th Street and I walk to the mall. Because if I park my car, my customer didn't get for parking lot. That's why I park my car in 10th Street and I come to the mall for walking. So I'm supporting, to get the parking lot. Thank you for all.
Thank you. Others wishing to speak in favor? Come on up. If anybody else, we still have a bit of time. Your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Abdullahi Gedi. I have a business in Village Market. I support for this development and the Pagan Park because we've been having a problem with our customers. They don't have enough parking. Plus, it is traffic congestion on the 10th and Elliott. So this one is going to help us, our customers have a parking and there is no traffic problems. So I support this project. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any questions? None? Anyone else wishing to speak in favor of this? Anyone else?
So they all support.
Okay. Okay. You don't need to speak unless you have some more information for us about these actual applications and how this would be good for the city and the neighborhood. So I think we've heard that there's support within one community at least for this expansion. If there's no one else wishing to come up to speak in support, we'll turn to those who oppose. In any order, come on up and give your name and address, and I'll start my clock again.
Mr. President, Planning Commissioners, my name is Corey Zoll. I live at 2411 11th Avenue South, about 500 feet from the mall.
We got your letter, thank you.
In 2001, when we found out that the mall was coming to the neighborhood, my neighbors and I were very excited. It brought a new use to the empty bakery site, which had been empty for quite a while there. Having the new activity on the corner there actually brought crime down because there was a lot of new activity there, and although it was at a time when crime was dropping citywide, it brought these new American entrepreneurs launching startup businesses in our neighborhood, and frankly, going into the mall, it brought a lot of really cool stuff. If you've been into the mall, the gorgeous rugs and scarves and other things that were in there. Like I said, my name is Corey, but my Somali brothers like to call me Gare because that means beard. And it really brought a whole new community of people who really appreciate a nice beard. So as the mall really took off and really got traction, my neighbors and I were still really glad to see that this place was going to be successful. It wasn't just going to fizzle out and be a disappointment. And at some point we heard that, instead of the original 37 stalls that were approved there were over 100. I think I heard recently that there are somewhere between 125 and 150 different vendors in that space. And I'm sure that when the city originally approved this, they imagined that they were, like staff said, they didn't know exactly how to fit it in. They thought the impact would be a lot like having 37 farmers market stalls. But now, as the staff said, it's clearly a shopping center with somewhere between 125 and 150 vendors, and that number maybe changes every day, and it has the impact of a shopping mall with 125 to 150 vendors in it, and so when the place started to expand, we saw the litter get a lot worse. Yes, there's a law that businesses have to pick up litter around their businesses. My neighbor Marge over here picks up a lot more litter, I'm sure, than the owners of the shopping mall. The parking got a lot worse. The staff report really grossly underestimates the impact of the mall on parking. The additional critical parking areas that were added to this, the ones south of 25th Street, those were from the hospital and those were long-standing, but critical parking that has been added in recent years was 100% in response to parking at the mall. Snow emergencies are just a nightmare. The short-term mall parking, there folks come in and out, and they park in the plowing zones, and they're not there long enough to be ticketed and towed. And by the time the ticket people come around, and then by the time the tow truck comes, there's a whole nother set of cars. So that's, it was a struggle. I didn't want critical parking. I have what looks like on my block to be a whites only parking zone in front of my house. I don't want that. The crime, so now that crime is going up citywide, and crime is going up near the mall. But what it wasn't the case before was Mike Sullivan, who's the inspector for the third precinct. He tells us this spring that this is now an emerging node where they really need to put extra cops out there because there's a lot more narcotics violations and other violations. And this mall is bringing, there's so many the additional activity that reduced crime 10 years ago. It has now evolved into increased activity that's increasing crime in the area. I'll try to skip some of my comments.
Okay, you're now at 4 minutes of the 20. And it's not your 20, by the way.
I understand. So adding 16 spaces, it's really a drop in the ocean here. The site is already, as I understand it, has less than half of the parking that the city would normally require for a shopping center of this size. And the idea that 16 spaces isn't even going to bring us up to anywhere close to what we need now. Another 9,000 square feet of commercial space, which I don't know, is that going to be, it's on paper, it might be 6 businesses, but the staff said there's no control. There's no reason to believe that that's not going to be another 50 or 60 or 70 vendors in the space. There's really no argument that this isn't going to have large negative impact on my neighborhood. It sends the wrong business. It sends the wrong message to the developer. It rewards bad behavior for 13 years on this site. You're telling new American entrepreneurs who want to start business that this is the way we do business here. This is what you can expect. This is the way things work in Minneapolis. And that's not that's really not what I want for my neighborhood. Thank you very much.
Thank you. No questions? Okay. Someone else wishing to speak in opposition, come on up. Give your name and address. We've used up about 5.5 minutes.
Hi, my name is Beth Steen. I live at 2211 Elliott Avenue. I'm here to speak in opposition for the expansion simply because of the implications it would have for traffic congestion and parking. Omar spoke to the fact that the pay parking would encourage people to move on and move out quickly, but that seems in contradiction from the comments of Mohammed that this is a community gathering center. I don't believe that pay parking would encourage people to move on. I believe instead it would encourage more people to park on the street, which is already quite congested. We watched an ambulance struggle to arrive at and then leave from an apartment building immediately next to us, and I have concerns about the traffic congestion and emergency vehicles navigating that. Thank you.
Thank you. Others wishing to speak in opposition, come on up. Give your name and address for the record, please.
Hi. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak tonight. My name is Evan Hall. I live at 2436 Elliott Avenue, South Minneapolis. I just want to say, first of all, I'm very in support of the Village Market, and I believe it is an anchoring institution to our neighborhood, just like the Swedish Institute or the hospitals or the other markets in the area. The issue I have with the expansion is mostly architectural. On page 9 of the CPAD report, it says that 30% of the Elliott-facing facade is glazing. The Elliott-facing facade is about 5,000 square feet. It's actually on the elevations. It's 5,000 square feet of vinyl siding. This property has used a lot of residential materials to construct a commercial building. And I believe a lot of buildings in Minneapolis recently have been being constructed out of residential materials that are actually should be using concrete and steel and other commercial grade materials. My other comment is specifically to the proposed facade on the structure. They're planning to use brick and plaster, I believe, or possibly brick. But what I'm more concerned is what is the building inside being constructed of? Maybe you can answer that now. I'm not sure exactly how this works. Is the building being constructed out of concrete, or is it being constructed out of 2x4s? And is this in compliance with a commercial grade building? That's a question maybe we don't answer tonight, but I believe when they said brick facade, they mean a brick veneer on a wooden constructed building.
That's how we understand it, yes.
And that, I believe, is in my opinion, maybe not in the city of Minneapolis' opinion, is a residential material. And I'd like to see more commercial grade materials used for commercial grade buildings in our neighborhood.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? I don't see any. Others wishing to speak? Your name and address, please.
Good evening, Mr. President, members of the Commission. My name is Catherine Blauvelt. I live at 2411 11th Avenue South. I speak on behalf of the Midtown Phillips Neighborhood Association tonight. We'll just bring a couple points to your attention, and you have some pictures before you of the parking around the mall. Couple points to raise. The 24th, the bike lane going down 24th Street, there are absolutely cars that park, but on 12th and beyond that go to the mall. So, and we heard tonight that those parking spaces will go away from 12th Avenue on. So know that that parking will have to be pushed somewhere, and you should add that to the 16 space number. That picture there that you see is of 24th Street. There are two double parked cars, and this is at 11 a.m. on a Sunday, so not a peak time for the mall. There is no place to park on that street. There is no place for people to go. That is a view of 10th Avenue. On the right-hand side, past the first car you see in the middle of the street is another double parked car. This is 10th Avenue at 11 a.m. on a Sunday, not during a time of worship. It gets worse during worship. I would also like to note that on the conditions on this application, there are no limits on the new tenants, and that is the history of the mall. When you approved it as a shopping center and when the city approved it, I'm pretty sure there wasn't a mosque in there, right? And that brings hundreds of visitors to the mall, and that's fantastic. But I ask that you folks consider that use and consider, that in your calculation of parking numbers. And indeed, if you believe that those 16 parking spaces are going to be enough, then you put it as a condition that there's a limit on new tenants, because that is what we have seen not happen. And then the uses expand beyond, what was on paper. And we deal with the consequences every day. That's my message to you is when you approve a non-conforming use, it may go away for the city as a consideration, but we live with the negative impacts every day. And it's so unfortunate. So what I'd ask is if you folks would please just put this on hold. Please don't approve this today and allow us to work with the city to bring this site to a place that makes some sense for the neighborhood and for the folks within the mall as well. And my last point is the expansion is out of character for the neighborhood. This is a 40,000 square foot plus building, right? There's no other building like that around. It's a residential neighborhood. This is not a commercial district, and adding on to that is out of character with the neighborhood. Thank you.
Are there any questions? Okay, don't see any. Thank you very much. Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition, please come up and give your name and address for the record.
Yeah, my name is Jim Bloom, and I live at 2410 10th Avenue South, so just right on the corner there. I just would agree with a lot of what has been said in terms of the congestion. I think our heart is with the businesses that are there and not opposing that, but really where the management and developers are not thinking about the kinds of congestion and the problems that it's been bringing, and the fact that nothing has been done over the past 10 years that we've been there to help alleviate that problem. And so there hasn't been any proven or testedness that the developer management are willing to deal with the congestion that's taking place there. In the analysis, it says, in number 3, it says the enlargement, expansion, relocation, structural alteration, or intensification will not result and significant increases of adverse off-site impacts, such as traffic, noise, dust, odors, and parking congestion. I mean, that just simply is not even close. The fact that there's no limit to how many people vendors can be in the building just means that it's going to increase that much more. And right now, it's already having a huge impact in our neighborhood in terms of the parking spaces, the congestion. It was already mentioned that the 16 parking spots that are being offered won't even make a dent into what the parking is right now, where it's clogging up every single street around from 12th to Chicago, from 22nd down to 25th. It's all being used. We have no place to even have friends over to be able to park there. The other piece is just the safety issue of kids, of pedestrians. Now with the bike lane coming through is a real concern because of the traffic. A lot of just traffic, basic courtesies are ignored on a regular basis on the street there. The second thing, too, is just the littering, the loitering, the noise level, the trespassing has just increased over the past 10 years. And we live right by there. The increasing number of people loitering and trespassing on the surrounding properties has just risen, and some of that is engaging in illegal activity. The loud noises, the traffic, the honking, because of people parking in the middle of the street. So our suggestion, too, is that number one piece is the traffic management plan, that this be postponed until something is really shown to be helpful, and that something be done before the actual building takes place, so that we know that the management, the developers are really do care about the traffic piece in our neighborhood, rather than making it one bundled thing that will only do that if it's built. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Any questions? Don't see any. Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition to these applications? Your name and address?
My name is Jonathan Schwenk. I live at 2211 Elliott Avenue, within easy sight of the mall. I'd like to agree with almost everything that was said tonight. To be clear, I'm not in favor of the expansion of non-conforming use, but I am in favor of the expansion of the parking lot and returning the alley to the residential use. I think that would be a good step in the right direction for relieving the traffic congestion in our neighborhood. I know we're not likely to get one without the other, however. I'd just like to provide some fine-grained detail about what some of my neighbors have said. Beth told us about the ambulance situation. On Elliott, near the mall, it's not just double parking, but it's people using the street as a loading and unloading zone. When that ambulance came in screaming, sirens on, and parked at the apartment building, within a few minutes, 5 or 6 cars in each direction had stacked up. And luckily, it was not an emergency that required evacuation, but that ambulance took several more minutes to coerce the cars out of the way. Even a police car with sirens on, horn blazing, cannot move cars off of Elliott Avenue. In the case of an emergency, this is an unsafe situation, and I don't want myself or my family to be injured or delayed in arrival at the hospital. Even though it's only 5 blocks away, it can be a 10 or 20-minute journey. Expanding the shopping center would put more cars on the street. There's no question about it. Also, what you see on paper, the reports you're receiving, may not accurately represent what's happening in the neighborhood. I'd encourage you all to come through and try and find a parking spot some evening around 5:30 or 6. I have attempted to count parking spots. I believe that the addition will cause a loss of 11, not 6. I haven't counted the whole lot. It's not something I want to spend time doing. But what you're seeing on paper is not what you experience as a resident of this neighborhood. This is not an easy place to have people over to visit, not an easy place to have an emergency vehicle come to rescue you from your house. Also, the garbage situation. My final point is people leave garbage in our yard, in our alley, on our street every day, more than 100 feet away from the mall because that's how far they walk for parking. One of the conditions I noticed was monitoring garbage pickup within 100 feet of the mall. If at all possible, I'd like to see that expanded to 500, 1,000, because that's how far people are dropping garbage, stuffing it into the bushes in front of my house, setting it on top of my garbage can for the wind to carry into the alley. It's a bad situation, and this will only make it worse. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any questions? None? Anyone else wishing to speak? Please come on up. We have just a couple more minutes.
My name is Raquel Bloom, and I'm a business owner in Ventura Village. I have a managing member of property management in Ventura Village, but I live in Midtown, which are the two neighborhoods affected by the application. And just want to reiterate again, I myself is an immigrant, so just reiterate our embracing and really wanting to address the needs of our new neighbors. So we really appreciate that. However, I am very concerned as an individual about the safety issue, because like it has been explained here, the current situation without the expansion is forcing people to do illegal things, such as loading and unloading where there isn't one, parking in front of my garage or in my parking spot. I've had neighbors complaining about the same thing and having to put their trash cans so that people don't park there, blocking of the alley because people have nowhere else to go. So once we include the context of the bike lane going in there, without any expansion, really, we have a major problem. So we would really agree with all the applications to improve the parking. And from my perspective, which is very limited, it appears that they can do all the architectural changes even without the expansion. So I think it will be in the best interest in terms of relationship between the owner and the management, to really address the parking issue so that it doesn't come across to the residents like myself that there is no concern towards us. So that would be my recommendation, is if your commission would postpone approving at least the expansion, especially because, like you said earlier, there are no details in this travel demand management plan, and some numbers are not really adding up. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And with that, I will close the public hearing. Thank you all for coming down to share your point of view with us and being brief and to the point. We certainly appreciate that. So we now move to our own action and discussion. We have 5 applications. The order they were presented by staff and staff report is a little different than on the agenda. I would suggest we would start with the non-conforming use expansion as sort of the key application, see what happens after that. Commissioner Brown.
Mr. President, I will move, I will start with item C, and I will move approval of the non-conforming use expansion with the 2 stated conditions. That is, number 1, that a travel demand management plan is reviewed and approved, and number 2, that the premises, all adjacent streets, sidewalks, and alleys, and all sidewalks and alleys within 100 feet shall be inspected regularly for purposes of removing any litter found.
Okay, moved. Do we have a second? We have a second? We do not seem to have a second on that motion. So that fails for lack of a second. Commissioner, do we have an alternate recommendation for C, non-conforming use expansion? Well, if it's not approving, it would be denying, one might think. Did we want to discuss the pros and cons a little bit before we form up a...
conversation started, I
okay.
will start with C as well and recommend denial of the expansion of non-conforming use.
Okay. Got a second for that. So as we discuss this, let's think about the findings that we will attach to the denial should that prevail. I think that's our main job here. Commissioner Kronzer, did you want to elaborate a little bit on why we should deny?
Well, I think we heard a lot of really good testimony tonight, and this is a neighborhood asset. This is a value to the community. It also is a very heavily used area that has some issues. My creative idea would be to approve every application here except for the non-conforming use, and have the applicant prove to us that the parking and the other issues can be addressed, and then address an expansion of the facility at a later date. I don't know if staff has thoughts on that approach.
Mr. Wittenberg, any ideas on what the result would be for that procedure?
Sorry, Commissioner Kranzer, could you just repeat the question?
Essentially denying the expansion of non-conforming use at this time while approving all the other applications.
The alley and the parking.
So, allowing all the alley vacations, all the parking improvements, all the site improvements to occur without the building addition.
I don't have a particular concern about that approach. I think that would be a possible path forward.
So that would be a denial of the expansion, which could be resubmitted when more information is available, if that would help the application. Is that correct? I think we do have a 120-day clock ticking, don't we?
We do. There is some urgency to act on this today. One just relatively minor issue that I think could be overcome is that after an application is denied, we typically ask that a new application not be submitted in 1 year. However, if there is some aspect of the proposal that has changed, we would accept a new application in less than a year.
Suppose we noted the lack of a TDMP and that sort of stuff. Would that allow the application to come back sooner if we state reasons that can be remedied?
That would be helpful.
Okay. Commissioner Bender, some ideas.
I'm wondering from staff when you think we might have the TDMP. Another potential time line is that the rezoning is required to go to the city council anyway. And so I wondered if the TDMP would be available within that time frame. I think all of us are struggling a bit with the lack of detail that we have on the big issues of access to this building, especially with all the parking that was varied originally.
Sure. I don't know. I believe the scope has been approved. Public Works and our office have reviewed the scope that the consultant presented to the owner for assurance that everything that we talked about was within the scope to be studied. And it sounds like that's been signed, and so the consultant should be working on that. I don't know if they'll be able to do it. I will just point out that a TDMP is not mandatory for this project. You have to build 400,000 square feet of square footage to actually trigger a mandatory TDMP. So this is a discretionary TDMP that Public Works and CPED are requesting. So not that it's not a good idea. It is a good idea to do one, but it's not required of them. And an 8,800 square foot addition is far from 400,000. So I'm just reminding the commission, I guess, of what our zoning code trigger is for that for that plan. But I don't know. I can't think of when ZMP would be, and I don't know if Mr. Wittenberg has the calendar up there. So this would go to ZNP in probably about a month, I'm guessing. I know we have an off week because of Memorial Day weekend. I just know that I've got it through council and everything signed right before the 30th of July.
I think we're probably looking at the June 19th Zoning and Planning Committee.
So what I would guess is that we'll at least have a draft of a TDMP by June 19th. I can't say that Public Works and I have reviewed it and all of the discussions and changes have taken place to it. It is a process. Public Works and myself review it. We give feedback. They revise. We give feedback until we get to a point where both Public Works and CPED can sign it.
Mr. Wittenberg or Commissioner Bender, when our items come to you automatically because of the zoning, do you automatically take up everything else? Is that opened up again? I think we would have decided on it, and you would unless appealed, would not deal with it.
Yeah, President Tucker, unless it is appealed, we do not.
An alternate approach would be to pass for the items and stay silent on C, the non-conforming. Then that would go forward without recommendation, and Z&P would have to act on it. Am I correct on that?
We actually need an action from the commission in order for it to move forward to the council.
Okay, so we
It would have to
need
be appealed.
an affirmative action of some sort. Okay.
And if I could just clarify one point that Mr. Borak made, not to contradict, but TDM is automatically required at 100,000 square feet. This is obviously still well short of that, and through the findings in the expansion of non-conforming use, you can certainly request a
I know you
lot of
certainly
detailed
had
information.
plenty
about
of testimony from all sides that it is crowded for traffic and for parking. Commissioner Kronzer, you were proposing that we deny C, the non-conforming use expansion.
Can I ask a question?
You may.
Oh, thank you.
Commissioner Gagnon.
Thank you. Could I just clarify one more time? When you say that you do parking and you break down a shopping mall, restaurant, blah, 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 do you break down number of tenants in the shopping mall, or is there's just like a general shopping mall category?
It's just general retail sales and service has a parking requirement, so we apply that to the square footage within the building. That's all retail sales. There's a parking requirement for food and beverage uses, which is a higher requirement than general retail, so we calculated all of that square footage. The mosque or the place of
Square footage for a general idea of a shopping mall. Not for number of tenants actually in the
not for
shopping
number
mall.
of tenants. It's based on square footage of the uses within the building.
Okay, so given that there's 125 plus, and there probably should be more around 35 to 50, that doesn't play into at all into your decision on parking spaces?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Another question on procedure, perhaps. If we were to deny and then the applicant appeals item C, does that change the date that this is likely to show up at City Council's Zoning and Planning Committee?
No.
No, okay. So I think we've explored our options. We need to speak. Did you want to continue with a motion, Commissioner Kronzer, to deny?
I believe the motion on the table is to deny with a second.
And that was seconded?
I guess just for the record, I guess the lack of the TDMP being ready for this is my major pause here with this application.
Okay. Commissioner Slack?
I'd like to reiterate what Commissioner Kronzer just said, and I think the TDMP is a critical piece of information that if we had it here available today, it'd be easier to make a decision. I'm generally in favor of the expansion of the uses on site, but I don't think the application has really responded to or answered any of the specific questions related to livability. Whether it's safety associated with the proposed bike trail or safety related to pedestrians, as well as the loitering and damage to public property. I think that those are some critical issues that we, as a planning commission, have a direct effect in the decision. And so at this point, I would support the motion on the table.
Okay. Commissioner Gagnon?
Sorry, will the
Did you-
TDMP, sorry, was someone else first?
No, you're next.
Will the TDMP also consider the bike path? Because I wasn't aware, I hadn't paid attention that was going to be now a new bike path. Will that be part of the traffic study, that there will be bicyclists going down that road of all ages?
Yes.
Okay, other questions, comments before we vote on denying application C for the expansion of non-conforming use?
I have a question.
Oh.
Thank you, Mr.
Commissioner
President.
Bender.
I had a question. I had understood there was going to be a safety center added as part of the expansion so that a MPD officer would be stationed in the building, at least at some times, but I haven't heard anything about that.
It's my understanding from Councilmember Warsami's office that there will be a safety center in the corner of the building on the retail level of 24th and 10th.
As I recall, the letter from Ventura Village talked about more management planning for this site, so perhaps that can be included next time this comes around or if it gets appealed. Okay, moved and seconded to deny. Clerk, please call a roll. Oh.
I just wanted to comment also that, I've been talking with both my colleagues about this, and I don't think this is an easy decision. The small parking lot that has 6 parking spaces in the back, it seems to be unutilized or underutilized space. However, I also think that, the amount of parking, I'm not even sure if you added 100 parking spaces here, it's not really the point. The point is the traffic impacts on the neighborhood. So I hope that the TDMP would address the issue of the traffic impacts, which I'm more concerned about than the varied parking. I think, in fact, if we added 100 extra parking spaces here, the traffic might get worse. So those are my thoughts today.
Okay, any other comments? Clerk, please call a roll on C to deny.
Brown? Forney? Gagnon? Kronzer? Slack? Bender? So that's 6-0.
Okay, Mr. Wittenberg, did you want to hear more findings? The livability and the traffic congestion, the lack of TDMP?
It might be helpful just to summarize, maybe a little bit more thoroughly than you just did, but although I think
that's all I got.
Commissioners Kronzer and Slack, I think, certainly did highlight some important points about the lack of a TDM plan and concern about livability issues.
Yeah.
In terms of the appeal period?
We didn't kill it per se, but something else.
Sure. Just to summarize, part of the commission's concern is the lack of a completed travel demand management plan that would address one of the findings in the expansion of a nonconforming use related to traffic issues, and that perhaps by the time, assuming this decision is appealed, perhaps by the time that gets to the city council, there will be more information in a completed travel demand management plan that can address those issues.
Go ahead, yeah. What? Okay, thank you. Commissioner Kronzer, did you want to go on to A and B, the parking?
Can I do A, B, and E?
You can.
I'd like to move approval of A, the rezoning, B, the conditional use permit, and E, the alley vacation.
Okay, moved and seconded. Staff recommendation on A, B, and E. Any discussion? Okay, clerk, please call a roll on A, B, and E to approve per staff recommendation.
Slack?
Aye.
Kronzer?
Aye.
Gagnon?
Aye.
Forney?
Aye.
Brown?
Aye.
Bender?
Aye.
6-0.
6-0. Okay, that leaves us with a site plan review, item D. Commissioner Kronzer?
Yes. I would like to modify and add a couple of conditions. So move approval of D, site plan review.
I'm sorry, where are you? Let's see. On D, the conditions?
Well, motion is to approve staff recommendations.
As is.
Well, if we've denied the expansion, then some of these items don't pertain.
True.
Like the building materials on the expansion that is not allowed.
Okay.
So 5 would be eliminated, I think. Staff, can you help us on which of the conditions are still relevant? Building entrance. 3, 4, and 5.
And 15.
6, the building entrance, that's not part of the expansion.
No.
No, okay. 14, that's the bicycles. Are those,
14 isn't relevant either because
that's
those
triggered
would
by
be
the
for
expansion?
the expansion.
Okay. So no 14. Wall sign was that in front of the expansion or elsewhere?
That was on the expansion.
Okay, so that would go.
Which one's that?
So I think 3, 4, and 5, 14, and 15 could be eliminated.
Okay. And the others, let me just read through to the end. Okay. So your motion will be to approve the site plan review with all conditions except 3, 4, 5, 14, and 15. Do I have that right?
And
And?
to modify condition number 6,
Okay.
that the sidewalk be added to Elliott Avenue South, to be at least 4 feet and a minimum of 3 feet away from the building.
And that's an existing building?
Correct.
Okay, so, and were there any other modifications you wanted to make to the conditions?
Two more additions.
Okay.
What I would call number 19 if we're
Okay,
keeping
we'll call it 19, even though it'll be some other number by the time this gets.
like 13, but yes. Chain link fencing shall not be allowed on the site, existing or proposed. And then number 20, all site lighting shall be full cutoff fixtures.
Any others? Okay, so that's your motion. The discussion on that motion with the changes in conditions, minus 5 of them, plus change 1 of them a little bit. And
It cuts off glare. It only projects light down towards it. I did have one comment, Mr. President.
Oh, certainly.
With the elimination of chain link fencing, I think, there is alternative compliance being requested on this project, and I think using higher level fencing is appropriate as an alternative compliance where there was nothing suggested as alternative compliance except for letting it exist. So
good point. Anyone else wishing to speak? Commissioner Forney.
Thank you. Yes, is it within our jurisdiction to talk about how many tenants could be in the building?
Council member, what are you? Jason.
Commissioners, I think if you could find a rational connection to, I guess, particularly findings 2, 3, or 4 of probably the expansion of a non-conforming use application would have been the most direct connection, but you've already denied that application. Quite honestly, as part of the site plan review, I think it's probably a stretch to link any of the site plan review standards to the number of tenants within the building. Shopping centers do require a conditional use permit when they're a conforming use, and in this case, an expansion of a non-conforming use when they're non-conforming. I don't think it's, again, out of the question to limit the number of tenants as part of one of those applications, but again, you've denied that application here tonight.
Yeah, I agree that the expansion was the place to put that, and I had noted that, but I don't think you can put conditions on a denial, can you?
That's correct. Not a lot of teeth.
Okay. Did you want to follow up on that, Commissioner Forney? Okay. Then I think we're ready to call the roll on item D as amended.
Bender.
Aye.
Brown.
Aye.
Forney,
Aye.
Gagnon,
Aye.
Cronzer.
Aye.
Slack.
Aye.
That's 6-0.
Okay, that is approved, and that is the last item for number 6, and the last item for our meeting. I would just like to say for myself that the application seemed a little light on specifics, and that, I think, hurt your application because we lacked so much information. Landscaping, traffic management, lighting plan, materials were a little, so more detail on that would certainly help the application and help us understand what it is you're trying to get at. Any business we have? Cow meeting?
Committee of the whole this Thursday.
Okay, be there. Thank you much. Our next, we are adjourned until our next meeting of June 9th, 2014. Okay.